feel like you have something to say, you can call in, because the conversation is also going to be about the Nigerian passports. Share this broadcast. Just for your information, ISWAP want their own country too, and they are already practicing it in Borno. Thank you. So we have just about 2 hours, and we're going to manage the time, and that is what makes this an open mic this morning or afternoon, whatever the time is for you there. So the conversation around, the National Assembly of Nigeria, the senators, they are discussing the ban on open grazing. According to them, in order to curb the farmers, the Fulani farmers, the Fulani herders, and then the indigenous farmers in Nigeria, to reduce their clashes. So they were making law at the national level. And that law comes with its own package. So it is a Ruga in disguise, okay? So what the law they are making is proposing is that every state in Nigeria, right, they will provide land and build ranches for the Fulani herdsmen so as to reduce the clashes. However, some of the National Assembly members are saying, fine, but Fulanis, like every other tribe and ethnic nationality in Nigeria, they should have what they will call their own ancestral indigenous land. Therefore, wherever you have the Fulani majority as those who are ruling the Sharia north, so what happened? Just they should lead and let others follow, which means the states where these Fulani herders comes from should provide them with ranches first. But the other senators are like, no, the ranches should be provided by all of the states in Nigeria, but we all know what they are doing and we know the targets. But there are others too who are now saying, okay, we would not support any ban on open grazing. In fact, ban on open grazing anywhere in Nigeria is a crime against the Fulanis, against the rights of cows. Ridiculous, yeah? Even though the story behind farmers' herders clashes is not true, because from the time immemorial, the only victims we have been seeing piling up, including women and children, these have been the farmers and their family, their entire household. We haven't seen the victims of the clashes on the part of the Fulanis whenever they report farmers herders clashes. So we know that is not true. The main agenda is land grabbing, to grab land wherever they can, using the instrumentality of one Nigeria, and people kind of know. And therefore, a lot of the people have rejected that idea, except for politicians who are playing about, trying to massage the ego of the Fulani warlords in Nigeria. But I mean, still, the Fulani warlords are not satisfied. They are not satisfied that they are making law to, number one, maybe protect the Fulani herdsmen, the real herdsmen, protect them from those who are killing them and stealing their cows, and then protect the farmers at the same time. They don't see it that way. By right, according to them, the Fulanis have every right to move about, because the law of Nigeria says every Nigerian have the right to move about in Nigeria, anywhere they want in Nigeria, they and their properties, goods and services. So that is now that is what brings about the right of cows. And that is why the ban on open grazing at the national level is likely going to be shut down. Listen to Issa Yuguda, the new guy speaking on the matter, explaining to us what we probably didn't know about this.
Before you go, of course, we know the heated debate that's currently ongoing about the bill before the National Assembly concerning open grazing. I'd love to know your take and your position on it.
Well, the issue of open grazing or closed grazing, this, do I say, is an afterthought? Because where were the previous Nigerian governments when the livestock that we've had since the creation of Nigeria, where have they not been seeing the livestock milling up and down? Are they not aware that the population of the animals are increasing? Or are they not aware that human beings are giving birth on a regular basis? The white man, when he came, quite all right, he established cattle routes from Sokoto to Lokoja, from Maiduguri to Oturko. And then the cattle route from those towns to Calabar or Port Harcourt is 50 meters setback on the right side of the road, 50 meters setback on the left side of the road. Because then cattle never go to the southern part of the country because such a fly would not allow them to live because it was not eradicated. And we see the white man also, after Lord Lugard finished the conquest of northern Nigeria in 1907, he wanted to set up a government. After setting up the government, there was no, he has to start collecting tax. And who was the first victim of taxation of the white man? It was the Fulani man. That is what they call jangling, cattle tax. And that is what started the economy of Nigeria. Because the correspondences are there in the office of the Secretary to the federal government. Any person who wants to go and have access to the records to read, let him go out there and read. You see where, after collecting the revenue, you write the King of England, I have collected so from jangling. I want the balance of so for my capital and recurrent expenditure. And that is what happened until around 1914, when other sources of revenue, including tax, groundnuts, hides and skin, and others, became a source of revenue for funding government. So, and the injustice on the Fulani man started since then. And what is that injustice? Taxation is on profit, not capital. The nage itself, that is the cattle, is the capital. So they were paying tax on capital, not tax on profit. So you can see the so-called, to quote Opabio, the gun-carrying Fulani, had his setback right from day one. But that time, he never carried AK-47. So, and this thing continued. And of course, you can see their experience has been very bitter. Some of them are arrested by police for doing nothing, and they are told to sell their cattle to be released. Some of them, the alkalis, and so on and so forth. But to be fair, the white man established cattle routes and grazing reserves all over Nigeria. These cattle reserves, cattle reserves, and then routes are there gazetted as official documents, and they remain so. But we all know this veterinary research firm was established because of them, for their cattle because the cattle had to be well before they can impose tax on them. So they kept them on their transhumance, traversing from north to south, north to south. But not until much, much later, when Abuja started as a federal capital, almost all the northern Fulani herders ended their journey in Abuja. That's during the dry season. This is where they come and spend the dry season because there is sufficient fodder and also there is sufficient water before they go back to the northern part of the country. But with Abuja, almost the whole of them went south. Because the stories of the deprivation of the Fulani is just a very pathetic story.
On that point.
And of course, since independence, they have been serving as the only means of protein for the country. They move up and down. The government is seeing them. Government has intervened in agriculture, clearing fields for planting, like Nalda. They buy fertilizer, they buy this, they buy that, but not animal husbandry. So this unfortunate professional group were left on their own.
Well,
so it is appropriate now that government has come to, hello, I'm just talking about the bill. I say it's appropriate now that there is a bill that is going to lend support for their being resettled in those grazing reserves, especially for those that are not being occupied or inhabited by their fellow Nigerians. And the cattle routes, there is no how you can have a route now. No how somebody leaving Otuko to come to Maiduguri, those cattle routes are no longer there. They have been overtaken. And you can see the experience of the Fulani being their animals killed, their children killed on the way. So it's a tragedy, and it is a welcome idea that
And I was actually, I was raging watching that. So let us take him point by point so that it won't sound as if we listen because we wanted to respond. Sort of. No, we will respond to the lies. And that is how they love to mix up their lies and their story. That was how Nigeria history of Hausa, Fulani, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, three major ethnic nationalities of Nigeria. That suddenly changed to Hausa Fulani, Hausa Fulani. Now today, almost those who are supposed to be Hausas themselves would rather actually appear as Fulanis. This is how they tweak the history. That madman said, the Lord Lugard, he said in 1907, Lord Lugard, okay, started taxing the Fulanis. And that was what kickstarted the commercial taxation, the money they even used in building Nigeria before other discoveries. This is the lies they tell. There was never a time, when Lugard was called back from the Gambia to come and lead the northern part of Nigeria. And at the time, there was nothing called northern or southern Nigeria. It was just like a northern protectorate, wherever, and this at the time. And northern Nigeria was such a drain that on record, northern Nigeria administration was drawing money from the UK, from the British government here, from British taxpayers, just for them to balance up their yearly budgets. At a time when they finally merged northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, it was even actually merged because at the time, it was just for commercial purposes, which is to bring all the farm produce meant for exports, meant for Britain, to move them down the south. So administratively, northern Nigeria, southern Nigeria never came to existence until 1914. So they brought Lugard back to come and see if he can change the fortune, because there was still some part of northern Nigeria, like what's that one called again? Is that called the Emir of Boroguno? The Kanemi Empire, the Borno Empire at the time, they were not under the British rule. So to bring all of them together and tax them was done by Lugard for the sake of saving northern Nigeria. And it wasn't Fulani cows they were taxing. Maybe among all those they taxed. They were asking farmers to part with a percentage of their farm produce, no money. Do you understand that? That was how people were paying taxes to this British at the time. So when it comes to administration and then running the place, northern Nigeria has always been a drain. I am telling you the truth. But likes of Isa Yuguda, they will tweak the history so that it can now be like, because there are those from northern Nigeria today also whose criminal leaders have told that the reason why oil in the southern part of Nigeria belongs to them was because before Nigeria discovered crude oil, that the money from northern Nigeria, groundnut oil in northern Nigeria, was the money used to develop the oil rigs in Niger Delta. Their criminal leaders told them that. They wrote books about it. Yeah, they told them that, you see, before Nigeria found oil, they were using our money to fund Nigeria, which is never true. Northern Nigeria is a drain. Historically, if there were those who benefited from northern Nigeria fortune, there were two group of people, the British, as well as the Fulani oligarchs, your elite from northern Nigeria. How come that suddenly the groundnut pyramid disappeared after independence? Because the groundnut pyramid, or whatever you want to call it, they were not cultivated, harvested by the criminal leaders from northern Nigeria, right from their sultan. They've always been like chancers, freeloaders, scavengers. But the Rankadede, Alimajiri system in that place has sustained this idea of tweaking the history. And no matter how ridiculous it sounds, there's no penny of Nigeria, if you have to put it, used in setting up the oil rigs in Nigeria. But there are those educated morons from northern Nigeria that believes that the reason why the oil in Niger Delta is their own is because their parents told them that they use groundnut money to build the oil rig in Niger Delta. Do you understand that? And that's part of this now. They tax the Fulani cows. Lugard taxed Fulani cows to fund Nigeria in 1907. That's not true. Again, the madman also said the Lugard created grazing routes and cattle colonies all over Nigeria. Do you know that despite the fact that we've been having this conversation for the past 8 years of APC, there's nothing we have not heard about grazing routes, cattle colony, grazing route. This madman said Lugard created grazing route 5 meters. She said 5 meters away from the highway, which means if you have the expressway now, 5 meters from it is meant for cows to be moving. Okay? But because Nigerian government abandoned that, they did not let people, the Fulanis move their cows on the side of the road created by Lugard. Also, they said Lugard created cattle colonies all over Nigeria. They said Lugard, white man, created grazing routes from Borno to Calabar. They said the white man created grazing routes from Sokoto to Lagos. But do you know something? Despite everything they have shown us that white man did, including Lugard, there is no record anywhere that in Nigeria there was a map of, route for cows ever. There is no one that has shown to us a proof that there was a single cattle colony created during the colonial time, any part of Nigeria. I mean, we all know if you go to Lokoja, you will see the office of Lugard. Office of Lugard is in Lokoja. Yes, Kogi State. Dilapidated building like that, where Lugard perpetrated all of his criminality. How come that these criminals who are tweaking the history, there are even some of you from the southern part of Nigeria, you somehow have bought these lies because they've been said many times. Nobody has presented any proof that, okay, there was a time when Awolowo became the premier of a Western region. Till tomorrow, people can still show you everywhere that Awolowo had farm settlements. Most of those farm settlements today, they have been sold off. But some of them, they still exist. And people will show you what those farm settlements look like in the 50s, in the 60s. They will show you pictures. People will show you all of the oil plantation cultivated by Okpara, the Prime Minister Okpara of the Eastern Nigeria. They will show you, even till tomorrow, many of those oil plantations, they still exist. Rubber plantations cultivated by Awolowo's government, they still exist till tomorrow. Despite a long time, what do you call it, vandalization. Till tomorrow, after the colonialists, they used the northern farmers, the Hausas, the Kanuris, all of these guys there, used them for hard labor. And they used them to cultivate different kinds of product they wanted, including groundnuts. The moment they left, nobody, not Amadu Bello, none of them was able to, not Tafawa Balewa, none of them could replicate that during their time as leaders of northern Nigeria. None of them. Go and look at all those pictures of the pyramid. These were pre-independence. Because the typical northern criminals, they do not create, they do not really build. Majorly, they destroy. And I'm not sorry to remind you of that. And they are so comfortable to tell stories. I would love to see the map of that route created by the white man that allowed cows to be moved from Sokoto to Calabar. I would love to see that, because that's the argument. Where do you want us to put our cows? Wherever you want, not on our land. If you want to trade in cows now, buy land, open ranch, create jobs, make money, pay tax. So the story of they use the Fulani cows taxes to build Nigeria. How? And how come they have not been able to use that same taxes, right? Then it was like that entitlement of the government has been giving money to agriculture. So if Fulanis who have been in government for donkey years and who have looted Nigeria blind, if the Fulanis who have been in charge of all the ministries, you call them defense and all that, if they have not been able to support their fellow Fulanis through their agricultural schemes, support programs. So now that they have to pick up guns and kidnap us, kill us, because it is our fault that the government is not building them schools, is not, I don't understand. So yeah, I don't know how far that will go. their law on open grazing and all of that. Here you get. But trust me, they will do everything to shut it down. As usual, they do believe that though. But we are waiting to see how far it goes. So back to Zamfara, where their governor, right, the one that succeeded Patawale, that is the current Minister of Defense for States. Yeah, I think that's where Patawale is. Is it not like Mini Junior? Badaru is the Minister of Defense. So Patawale is, Junior. So that's the former governor of Zamfara State, the guy that told everybody that Zamfara gold belonged to Zamfara, while Bayelsa oil belonged to Nigeria, right? So he failed. And the guy who succeeded him, so he said they have been negotiating with the terrorists, even though he met a totally captured state.